Well, hello. So, here with me, I have a friend from Peru. We did a lot of things very intentionally to make sure that their identity, remains ambiguous. The important part for this is that they are, an active member of Peruvian politics. And granted, what we're going to discuss, you'll see why it was very evident that we intentionally maintain a hidden identity. So, to start from the beginning, I personally was at the No Kings protest, as seen by this B-roll, but
Yeah.
that was fucking a victory lap, and that was a concert compared to the shit you were telling me. Like, how was tell me how yesterday morning. We can start there. What did it look like?
Um, well, the marches here started in the of 2015. Um, it's been like a long and tiresome battle in general.
I can
We
imagine.
have, yeah, we are at our eighth president in less than 10 years.
Eight
Uh,
and
s-
10.
yeah, we are at our eighth president in 10 years right now. That's counting transition presidents, so on and so forth. It's like no words to really describe the uncertainty of the situation, right?
Mm.
So all the marches we are having, or all the protests we're having, have a toll of at least 55 to 60 people unalived,
Mm-hmm.
thousands injured, all across the country, not only in Lima.
Mm.
And that's because, well, we have slowly but surely take our rights and our liberties from granted, and we have let politicians simply take that away from us.
What do you mean by let?
It's um like it's a whole fucking thing. Um, we have like a really dire history of situations from the 80s and the 90s that led to civil conflicts and internal war uh, that led to a dictatorship in the 90s that changed the constitution entirely.
Oh yeah, then they rewrote the book, didn't they?
Yeah, they rewrote the whole thing there. So that constitution gives special powers to certain branches of the executive branch and the legislator branch.
Right. So for people who are unaware with of American politics and how it reflects in Peru, right? They do have like y'all don't do prime ministers, right? You do presidents, and so it's a very
Yes.
Western-looking infrastructure, at least initially. But now there's no checks and balances, so it's its own thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Our government system resembles somewhat the French system of government. That's also taken by the states uh, when they separate themselves from England. But there are certain differences and balances of power in check. In what we differ a lot, it's in the judiciary, in the judiciary system. We don't have judges. I mean, we have judges. We don't have juries. It's only judges, three judges instead of one. That
Three
they have to
judges.
interpret it.
Hmm.
Yeah, you have three judges in court, and they have to interpret the law. But you don't have a jury of
Like
peers or civils. That
right.
doesn't
So
exist.
So without a jury, then, in instances where, well, yeah, so the reason why a jury is important is because when there's something else that happens, the jury is supposed to be like, yeah, no, but we get it. Like, it's valid. The circumstances, regardless of the law, should allow for that. That's what a jury's position is supposed to be able to do, right? But it also is something in reflective to modern culture in an area. Now, didn't you mention earlier about trials with judges wearing,
Masks and no
yeah.
faces. Yeah, that's because when in the 90s, in the 80s and the 90s, we have a really big struggle internally and domestically against communist terrorist forces, Shining Path and the MRATI. So these groups, these terrorist cells, these groups caused like a lot of strife all around the country. And I mean kidnaps, mass murdering, mass graves, bombings, car bombs, you name it. So the response from the government at that time was create death squads and basically
To
send the
process
military
them
to,
fast.
yeah, to process things fast, and the military would just fucking wreck everyone in the middle because you are dealing with an internal belligerent group that doesn't wear uniforms and doesn't and mix with the general population. So they don't distinguish between a regular folk and a member of this terrorist cell. So they just like take them all, and it was really brutal.
I mean, yeah,
Well,
when you don't sift out the civilians, it's just a slaughter.
it was a slaughter. So to process a lot of political prisoners and terrorists that got caught and go through the system, judges used to use masks to protect themselves and not be targets of terrorist groups. But that also led to massacres in prisons where the military just fucking shoot everyone on sight inside a prison cell that revolt. So there is that. There is a famous prison that's called Il Fronton. Il Fronton, it's a prison in an island. Um, I would like show pictures, but it's not a pretty picture. So yeah, that was a thing. So
So no
when
wonder
that
why Lima's in unrest. So the protests starting the 15th. Under what banner were these protests? Because over here is the No Kings March. What's for Lima?
in Lima, the banner or the voice that wants
The
to bring a
movement.
change, it's first of all security. Um, we are having like a really big spike on racketeering groups, extortion groups, organized crime. It's not uncommon to see bus drivers getting like extorted for money or killed, or people running their business getting extorted or killed, and that's one thing. The other thing it's this political unrest we are having. Uh, Congress has passed laws that have enabled this insecurity in general, systematically. Uh, and they have total disregard for their constituents in Congress. For example, they try to make us vote to see if we wanted to change our Congress system from congressmen to senators and legislators, like making more people involved in uh, that area of power. And Peru voted for no. We don't want more of you motherfuckers like sitting there. And
Yeah, we need change, not pigs.
yeah, and they did it anyway. Yeah,
So it is a ruling class.
it is. So the the objective of the march is like they all need to go. We want them all gone. We need to reform the rules that govern our government and the rules that govern the social pact between the people here. Like it's
Last night.
important because yeah, it's important because it, it doesn't matter if you have a nice job or you are in a privileged position, because if you don't have like your rights guaranteed by a rule of law, you are basically fucked. So people are fed up. They know it's all smoke and mirrors and theater. And in that sense, the social pact between everyone, it's absolute broken.
Yesterday, you said something to me that like was so insightful, but like blew my mind. Like it really tempered my expectations, right? And what you said to me was you felt you would feel safer in Gotham City than you do in
Yeah,
home.
yeah, of course. The amount of violent crimes in the rise all around the nation, it's really worrisome. I read a lot of comics, for example, and I remember one time like Batman like losing his shit for the murdering rates in Gotham. I think it was like 200 or 250. Yo, we are at 600 here. Like it's really fucking brutal.
But let's do some math. So I know Gotham, right, is supposed to be based off of like what, Philly? Let's look up the per capita of Philly. Just to give some people some perspective.
So yeah, the violent crimes rates here are on the rise in a worrisome, in a really worrisome rate, and that's because if you have your leaders doing whatever they want and there are no checks and balances on them, why should anyone follow the law? Like why?
They shouldn't. Period. Not not in the way that the laws were originally written. Legally speaking, well, before your constitution was changed radically, right? Legally speaking, the people had a right of representation, and thus they have a right to remove that representation when they're no longer represented.
Yeah. For example, I found the quote. Detective Comics number 999. Batman reads that the murder rate in Gotham City is 200 people per year, right? We are in this year uh, with 634. Last year we got like 859. Just in Lima, just the city, not the country, just the capital. So we are like worse. Yeah.
I found this quote saying that in 2023 it was 142 homicides per 100,000 in Philadelphia.
Yeah, we are in 600. More
That
than
is,
600. Between 400, 600.
but that's not per cap. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
in a population which is nearly the size of Philly. You know, yeah, it's.
Population of Lima, it's a lot, right?
Oh yeah, what is Lima's population?
We are
Estimated
talking like
near 11 million.
10 million people. Yeah. 10, 11 million people.
Well, you're right. It's on the decline right now. Well, that's the other thing too. So, amidst the mismanaging of resources, last night you discussed how there was some governmental action for population control. Would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, that happened in the 90s. There was a government politic from the health minister to try and help, quote unquote, impoverished zones in the highlands of Peru. And what they did was offer some form of free healthcare, quote unquote, to women, so they can have better control over the reproduction and their families. But what they end up doing was like sterilize them forcibly, if not at gunpoint, without them knowing. So that was a thing. But anyway, when this struggle, this battle ended, when the heads of terrorist groups were captured. The president that was in charge at that point just basically used his position at the executive and his position at the Congress to co-opt different powers in our government.
Wait, did you just say as a detective? He was a detective as well.
No, a dictator.
Oh right. Oh,
A
of
dictator.
course. No, it wouldn't be something as cool as detective, detective governor.
No.
No. That'd be too cool.
No.
No, it would just have to be a fucking a dictator, of
Yeah,
course. Just your
basically what.
average hater.
Yeah, but basically when you face an autocratic regime, what that regime usually does is co-opt different parts of government to, for one part, cover themselves up, and on the other part, to tailor laws and legislation to their fucking corruption needs. So they start appointing specific people in the constitutional courts. They start appointing people in the branch that takes care of elections. They start to appoint people in different important institutions. So they can control the narrative, right?
Yeah. I mean,
And that kind of started, or those powers were like enabled during the rewriting of that constitution. So much so that this president tried to rule for 15 years, but then, well, it surfaced different corruption scandals involving payment to TV networks, involving payment of press, involving payment of people in position of economic power to basically keep on rolling with the state of affairs. So when these bribes came to be known, uh, that basically toppled that autocratic regime. But it wasn't top. It didn't fall because the police or the military intervened. It fell because the people rised up. When this got like
Successfully.
with this, yeah, when this kind of worms like got open, all everyone,
And that was when you were a kid, right back in the 90s.
yeah, I was like 17. Everyone like rise up and march and protest like furiously with violence. State operatives even blow up the central bank of Lima to blame that on the left. But it was the state. And it has been proven that it was state operatives that fucking blow up the central bank. It's like imagine like the CIA blowing up the fucking Federal Reserve
Yeah.
and say like it
The
was
left did it.
yeah and say it was like fucking
Yeah, Antifa did
I
it.
don't know, Antifa did it.
Yeah. Literally, that'd be the direct parallel, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So well, when this president like fall from power, we had some years of prosperity, quote unquote prosperity. Still, inequality and hardship. It's ingrained in the system, but at least there was some form of order
So
in the
when you
political
say
system, in a sense.
that there was inherent resistance, right? For the audience at home, that's called systematic oppression. That's what the system is. That the systematic oppression is a system that adds added resistance to people, and then
Yes.
right. So that it, you know. Anyways, continue.
Yeah. And well, the party of this, the political party of this dictator kept on going. It didn't dissolve. Just the guy got to, got processed and jailed, but the party kept on going, using the same tactics from the 90s to co-opt different positions of power. So that has led us to where we just stand today. What what does this mean? This means that you want some balance of power to keep check between the interest of all the interested parties. You want the executive branch having a check with Congress. Like the president can do whatever he wants because Congress must like keep him in check.
Right.
And
Stopping the
con-
circle jerk so that they don't circle jerk into the sun and leave everyone else behind. So it doesn't become a
yeah,
ruling class.
exactly. And Congress should have all power checks too in the judiciary and
Oh yeah. Didn't your Congress lose the power of the purse? That was so fascinating. Tell me more about that.
the, what the Congress lose what?
Didn't your Congress lose their power of the purse and it was given to like the Federal Reserves in like effort to rebound your economy?
Oh, right. That was years and years ago. That
Like in the
was
90s, right?
during
During the reform?
no, that was in the 80s actually. Uh, we got in a stupid position of hyperinflation that was like bonkers during the
Self-inflicted.
80s.
Yeah.
Yeah. What basically happened when the government started to be in really dire debt, they come up with the most stupid solution you can imagine, and that's it. Let's nationalize the banks and let's print more money and lend that to ourselves. And how does that look like? Like that looks like 11,000 in percentage of inflation per year. So
So then it crashes
It was,
down.
yeah, it was fucking unbelievable. Like, you have no idea. I told you this story. My dad, for example, one time give me and my brother like money on Sunday to buy bread for breakfast, right?
Oh yeah.
So we changed. So we changed our clothes
So for
and
the
went to
audience at
the
home,
bakery.
this is
Uh,
an
when
example of living in a hyper economy. This is you'll see a
hyperinflation economy.
fresh you'll see a fresh example with like coming off of like the Palestinian war, right? But here in Peru, this is what a lived experience, even not in isolation, right? Just because that's the whole fucking country. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, we were actually like studied in different economic schools because it was unbelievable how ridiculous the situation was, right? So my dad gave me and my brother like money to buy bread in the bakery uh, on Sunday for breakfast. We changed our clothes and we went to the bakery, but my brother forgot the money on the table of the kitchen. The time it took us to get back to our house, pick up the money, and get back to the bakery, the price of the bread already rise up, and we couldn't afford it. What happens when prices rise up continually without control? You create a black market because you
Because
do
people are
not
not going to pay that tax. Yeah.
not only they don't want to pay, but if you know something will be more expensive in the afternoon, you just held to the stock. You don't sell it. Wait for it to rise in price. And at the same time, you sell it in black markets to make profit because you are holding on stock. This just creates a scarcity to no end. So
So yeah, it sounds
with
like
hell
okay.
is actual hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds like hell. It is. So what we did to put a stop on that was when this dictator made this new constitution. He made it impossible for Congress or the executive branch have a say on how the our federal bank, our central bank, runs his affairs, and make, for example, the inflation be 3% tops. You cannot surpass that by law. So the central bank has like some checks and things they have to take care of, and it have worked very well. Uh,
Right, to this day, like now
over
you're like the staple, like more or less, right, locally.
Yeah, in the region we have the strongest monetary, like our currency is one of the strongest in the region, thanks to that, because the central bank doesn't get co-opted by state, and we have fought tooth and nails to keep it that way. And even if the congressmen are corrupt to the core, they know that if they touch that law, they will not live to tell a tale. Yeah,
As it
basically.
should be.
So yeah,
In a world where your people have to survive off of trade in any capacity, you need a solid purse for commerce. So any nation would do well to learn the lesson of ensuring a stable foundation for your economic budget and then just giving the politicians a budget to play room with, is the moral
yeah,
of the story.
basically. But you don't. If you make your Congress get a hold of your Federal Reserve, you are fucking fucked. Like, you have no idea. But because it will be used to political purposes and not serve your economy as it
Yeah.
should be.
No, even better, to circle jerk up, because we have politicians too. But our scale is, instead of our politicians being a ruling class, we have a class even above that who rules the politicians. So, fun
Right.
stuff.
Yeah, we're kind in the same thing right here.
Just
Uh,
classic arms dealing.
yeah.
The
So
realization,
when this,
oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Listen. Okay, Ante, listen. Ante, listen. My face when I realized that my home country's economy is purely arms dealing. Like the realization, the world police, sure, it's arms dealing though. It is to create arms fundamentally. It just also happens to have people involved to, control some of these arms, right? But like conceptually, NATO funds and we distribute, and hence the military emphasis of our GDP, right? But if that's it, if our giant is just weapons, we're arms dealers. That is insane.
yeah, the thing with the economic state of the United States right now, it's GDP measures the total amount of products and services that are sold and buy over a period of time in one place, right? That's in theory. But in that calculation, there are like some things to take in account for. For example, inflation. For example, so you have to adjust that indicator to get a real sense of what's going on. Meaning inflation, meaning your deficit, meaning your national debt, meaning how businesses run with each other. So at the end of the day, the GDP tells you like how healthy is your economy in terms of how much things have been bought and how much things have been sold in a period of time in a territory. But that's it. That doesn't translate to if you can. That really doesn't translate to how you can make ends meet by the end of the month by paying groceries and rent and utilities and healthcare and the stuff that you need to live, like housing. That doesn't correlate really. So if you run the numbers and you check the numbers, you will see that in the last 5 years in the States, um, how the inflation has affected the income of like regular folk, and
Yeah.
how
In
the
reference, this is
how
called
yeah
spending power, people. Spending power, how far your dollar can go when it is what they're talking
yeah.
about.
So your cost of housing has gone up, your cost of healthcare has gone up, cost of groceries has gone up, and your wages doesn't catch up. So you get in debt. Like you pay your shit with credit just to reach the end of the month. So you're constantly in this loop in which you are forced to like slave away to be able to get by. And
Some might call
that
this grind culture.
yeah, and like if you see the news and if you talk to regular folk, everyone is thinking about like get rich fast with something, but the idea of like working to have a decent living standard, it's out of the question. And that is not something that affects only the left, or it affects everyone. It's
Absolutely.
not it's not a thing that has to do with immigration. It's not a thing that has to do with uh, POC. It's
Oh,
nothing
one thought,
that have.
one comment on immigration. Why would you piss on your free labor? You're a dumbass to do so. We all like, come on, we know what happens when people are undocumented. They end up getting the worst kind of jobs, right? If they can, right? And that is a black market of the most affordable labor that many within this voting bloc utilize for their farms, for their stores, right? So why would you shoot yourself in the foot from your cheapest labor source?
It's
Just
not only
relatively
that.
speaking, relatively speaking, you know?
It's not only that, but the immigrant population is not really that
Oh no, it's not
big.
statistically significant anyways. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that big, but you get people in power, in political power, like pointing fingers to everything, to like a strong man that doesn't exist. So you don't hold them accountable for what are they doing. Um, you're like being robbed, not only of your money and your pensions, but you're being robbed of your rights, of your liberty. I bet you don't feel like really free if you can afford housing, healthcare, and having food to eat in front of you.
So that made me wonder, what freedom am I actually paying for while being here, right? Personally, right? Because, there was a point where I thought I could leave the country, right? My finances can no longer, do that, right? But there was a point where I thought I could, right? To start a new life. And so when that option was available to me, I had to ask myself genuinely, what freedoms do I have and that I'm paying for here, right? And thinking about it, my freedom of speech sure is fucking here. I can't. What's this fucking Antifa shit? Being anti-fascist, being not liking fascists, not liking fascists is a terrorist act, right? So freedom of speech. What is legally a decentralized, not even an organized organization, a concept and a thought form of people, right? A decentralized thought form is terrorism, but it's the thought behind it, the right. So like that inherent freedom's not there. The only other reason why I personally would stay in the United States is because of my gay ass, right? Because gays aren't really welcomed around the world. I mean, they are, but not like celebrated, right? It's just one of. But here in Western nation, they're less hated, relatively speaking, right? And so a matter of protection. But even then, as of Monday legislation, as of Monday, hold on, let's look at this. October 13th legislation. Because of my transness, because of using words like non-binary, gender non-conforming, right? Like the gay words that we made up to describe ourselves, those are part of the terrorist designation. And so, like, I don't know. No, I don't feel free personally, not even a little bit. I sure as fuck didn't feel born free, because when I was born, I was told, nah, like, your queerness, fuck that, right? And that was, so no, I personally don't feel, I've never felt free.
Yeah,
I've,
and that's the thing. When you start losing that, and you don't feel like it's touching you, it's really touching everyone, not just a specific community.
yeah, it's not just the
Because
gays, it's not just the brown people. I mean, like, shit, like, fun fact, there's low income white people. right? And they are
Yeah.
also vulnerable when the economy is fucked.
Yeah. So when you start to rise up because your standards of living are fucked, you start getting labels, and that label makes you a threat. And under the pretense of being a threat, you can like be prosecuted and get your fucking life ruined. For example, in the marches from the 15, the police basically unalive a protester at, with a gunshot. Um,
You mean an execution?
it's the we have like state operatives inside the marches. Like um, the police disguise themselves as civilians and enter the marches. So the tactic they use is try to stir shit up. So you follow them in the heat of the moment, and the moment you do that, they take you into custody because they are basically police in disguise.
Ah, yes. A psyop. When you have
Yeah,
a traitor amongst you, when there's snakes in the grass, when there's a radical who's just a little too radical, who's trying to cause fights, they're not your friend. If
yeah,
you can't afford getting caught in a fight, don't fight. Period.
yeah. So what happened is that in the march we were basically ambushed. The police create like a funnel in the street
Yeah.
and start like sending tear gases and push us like to the back. But
Oh, the
most
pinch
people didn't have,
tactics.
yeah, but most people didn't have ways to get to the adjacent street. Your only way out was back. So when you're like
Back
thousands
to
of
a
people
corner.
and you have to like turn around and get back, that's how you get an stampede and get like crushed.
You're right.
So
Oh my
the
god.
people that were in the front couldn't back out of dangerous situations quickly because you have to wait for the ones that are most far away to get back first, right?
Yeah, you're
So
moving an entire formation of concentrated people.
yes, imagine like a packed concert in a huge venue or
Yeah.
in the open air and try to tell
Sardines
every
thick.
try to tell everyone like turn around and march forward. The ones that are in front of the scenario cannot be the cannot march. They have to wait for the others that are behind to back up. So in that way is when the police start using pinch tactics. So they can capture the ones in the front with the riot police while the rest is trying to back up. But that's dangerous as fuck because you get crushed under people.
Is that why your quote for today on your Discord is the only way out is through?
Kinda. So the people that start like getting out of the most heated parts of the march and the protest
Yeah.
try to get to different streets to get to public transportations and just go to their homes. But the police at psyops way way far of the part of the march to keep on arresting uh, the stranglers and people that were trying to get out, right? But you can tell when you have like a terna. Usually that's a police group that infiltrates marchers. You can tell because the clothes they wear. You can tell because their haircut. You can tell because their demeanor. You can tell because we know their tactics. So we had two police men trying to like capture people that were stranglers for them from the march. Needless to say, marching is a constitutional right, so you like shouldn't like arrest in that way. But anyway, they got caught and got pursued. The people like knew these were tie-ups and start pursuing them to make them go away. So in that pursuit, this police officer just turned back and shoot the first person he got in front of him. A young man that was a musician, was a rapper, and didn't have anything to do with anything, and did anything wrong. So that's the kind of thing you face, basically. Right now, the narrative around that is this person should have, I mean, you check the press and you see things like, surely this person did something to deserve being shot, or the narrative around the mainstream media is, but the police also got like injured and stuff. Brother, they are with fucking shields and protective gear, and they were like released from any injury they have in 24 hours. We still have like people detained with no warrants or no order. They are basically kidnapped by the state. Like right now, they are detained with no warrant or order of arrest whatsoever. I can hear you. I can hear you.
As far as I'm concerned, those are hostages.
Yeah, they are. They are kidnapped because there is no rule of law.
And thus, you know, Civil War-esque primordial brew.
Yeah, so we are trying to tread carefully because we are having elections in 80 months, and we kind of hope that some change will happen. But
So the thing keeping from
it's
Civil War is that election cycle.
yeah, that I feel is not like given the recent history of 8 presidents in less than 10 years.
It's gonna be. It
Really,
feels like a fake election too.
yeah, it feels like a fucking fake election. Like imagine changing president 8 months before an election. Do you feel that's like normal?
If yes, it has happened a couple times here because our president, right? So the
Okay.
vice president are set up, right? So in that sense, yes, but otherwise, no, no, absolutely not,
Yeah.
right?
It's not by deposing. It's because well, different circumstances. But yeah, it feels like it's all rigged in a sense.
Mm.
Those people are tired and in fear, but still we fight because we believe in ourselves and we believe in the place we live. We love our country. We don't march or strike because we are lazy or because we are terrorists or because we are like belligerent. We march because it's
That's
obvious this
a,
doesn't sustain itself. We need something that's in the service of the people. That's sustainable.
no. You're. I think no. I think you're onto something here. Like, you just gave me an insight, right? Because conceptually, for real, Americans rather leave because they have the means to than stay and change things because they don't have a
Yeah,
cultural identity. They're not proud to be Americans, right? And the people who are, well, are currently in power, you know?
yeah, but here's the thing: when you face, or at least in my time in this world, it's something I have like learned on hardship.
Yeah, I know I'm just a kid. I'm only 26. But in my fairness, I did go to war. So, like,
Yeah. So you can like agree with me in this. Like autocratic regimes don't end itself.
yeah, it's an Ouroboros. And autocracy closes the Ouroboros when life is supposed to expand it. Genuinely.
Yeah, autocratic regimes don't topple themselves. They don't end themselves. All autocratic regimes or have been through the history of the world
Deposed.
ended the post and ended by the people. But you need to be like aware that even the the persons that you don't agree with are also facing the consequences of having an autocratic regime. And you need to start like looking closer to what affects your everyday life. Yeah, I mean healthcare, housing and shelter,
Food.
being able to like have food on your table, and each year those things are harder and harder to get by. And it's not only on people on the left, it's not only on people on the right, it's on everyone. And at some point, you have to make your government accountable for what they are doing. And you have to think that you are not dealing with someone in when I say someone, I'm talking about the government in itself. You are not dealing with someone that has a conscience and will be moved by your pain. And you are not dealing with someone that's reasonable, that you can sway or explain your situation away. And in those circumstances, when you are dealing with that, peace is not an option. So you have to fight to protect what matters to you.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. I think a lot of people who are disenfranchised are trying to collect their resources to leave, right? And there's no country currently who's like, yeah, we'll let you seek asylum here, right? And if that becomes a thing, that's going to be a huge mass migration for those who can afford to leave. But what about those who can't? What about those who genuinely can't? That's the people who have to fight. And those are the people with the least amount of resources. And then what? Right? So it's getting before there. It's getting before, in the 50-year mark where the economy is irreversible, right? It's getting before there's blood in the streets, right? It's getting before, you know, the Civil War, right? It always. And as anything, like I hear what you're saying. I think I can see it now, right? It's a concentration. So the further in advance you can call it, the easier it is to pivot.
Yeah,
But the closer you are, the harder it is to pivot before you have to cast blood.
yeah, that's basically it. Um, we have like, how do I explain it? Um, we have like divorced politics from economics in most of the Western world, but that's just like nonsense. Economics is politics.
Especially if Congress has the purse.
Exactly. So that should be your focus, because you are debating
Oh yeah,
and
the money has to come from
arguing.
somewhere.
Yeah, you are debating and arguing about the wrong things. You are facing a whole generation that will have no pension whatsoever, no security
Yeah.
behind them. Yeah,
Oh, it's so funny that you mentioned security because, like, yeah, it's supposed to be called social security, right? At the age of like 50, now 60 or something, right? Or 55, now 60, right? That, like, theoretically, an average American should be able to live happily in retirement, right? Like, the age of work should be over in that life cycle, is the kind of security we're talking about, right? Where you should be able to rest. That's what the security is, right? Like, I understand now why it was called that. I didn't know before, right? And now that the security is no longer there for me, not for me, not for me, right? For my generation, I can see now how it feels big uneasy and why people would just rather leave and join a commune. Isn't that the, like, yeah, everyone keeps on saying they want to join a commune. Where the fuck are all these communes at?
like taking it this way, when the government gets in debt and that debt needs to be paid off,
Oh, yes. Of course.
from the money
Mm-hmm.
comes from two or three sources, right?
Okay.
One are securities from the federal bank. They sell bonds
Oh,
and
so like the
economic
international
products.
trade of it.
Yeah, but
Okay.
that devaluates in the long run. That devaluates the value of your currency, make it less attractive.
Really?
Markets in general.
International markets make us less attractive? That's interesting. How?
No,
Like,
when you have to sell more state
oh,
bonds,
really? Because I thought they were supposed to be like the most secure investment that someone could make.
right now, yes. But if the trend keeps going, like if you have to cover, if you have to like sell your assets to fucking pay your debt, at some point your assets are perceived as cheaper
Oh, true.
because you are in debt.
Right,
You
because there's
want to
more
sell,
available.
yeah, because you want to sell high. But if there are a lot of those securities and a lot of those bonds in international markets, their price will go down. And when that happens, the value of your currency goes down too. That's one way. The other way is start making budget cuts on government branches. What do you think that looks like?
Downsizing people, or
Yeah, but
just removing government programs like Medicare
exactly.
and Medicaid.
Yeah, they will not start with the military, of course,
No, that's
but they
no,
will.
not that's our core. That's our GDP. They can't. They're not allowed to, relatively speaking.
There are a lot of interest there to keep order, but they will start with social programs. They will start with disability checks people get or unemployment checks people get. Those will start to disappear, basically, one by one. And you will be faced with like having to get by your own means. That money to like fucking bail out the government will not come from big corporations because the government worked for those big corporations. So it
Right.
will start be
So
funded with your taxes, with your money.
yeah. So it's reflected in this budget. What it's going to be apparent that whoever makes whatever decisions, regardless of the people, because if we're being honest, our congressmen and senators aren't listening to their constituents, proven
Yeah,
by their opinions on the state of Israel.
yeah.
Anywho,
They don't they they are not held accountable for what they are doing. Like the principal issue here is that there are no checks and balances. So when you lose that is when you start to see that disappearing. It's when you start living in an autocratic regime that doesn't have any accountability.
And once you get to autocracy, you can't undo an
Yeah,
autocracy without tearing down the autocracy.
yeah, and that will not disappear because the changes that happen in that period of time, they fester.
Hmm.
They will continue in the next government, and if they
Right.
know they can get away with it,
I found the metaphor that these things, these issues that are present that's in the American minds of like being able to eat and pay for your drugs and not go bankrupt after breaking a single wrist, right? That these are lesions. And then, you know, as time passes and a new face changes, if we don't heal these lesions, they become to fester and become diseased and ruin the thing permanently. It
yeah,
decays.
it's the case. When when your democracy start to decay and start to get eroded, the only way to like push that back, it's the people, because politics is the people.
Yeah,
It's
people
not. It's not.
representing people with people ideas for the people. As crazy as that sounds. Oh wow. So that
Oh,
speaking of, yeah, politics is about people. So for anyone who's like, I'm not into politics, they're just in a
politics
place
is
of
into
privilege
you.
to where they don't have to care about the they're not into politics because they're represented, right? At least well enough to where they don't have to care. That's what that means. To not be confused, because everywhere else in the world this idea is reflected. Anyways, go ahead, proceed.
Yeah. Um, the thing is that politics is not your political leaders. It's not your congressman. Politics is you.
Money,
And
ideas, and
my
change.
yeah. What you need to do like right now is get out of your house, get to know your neighbors, get to know people that care about what where will you be standing in 50 years from now, and start like really talk about where you want to be in that period of time
So rooting,
and organize. Yeah, and
rooting.
organize.
No,
You
no,
need
you're
to get.
so it's rooting. You're right, because to know thy neighbor is to root. It's to root your. That's how you root yourself in your local community. To know thy neighbor, to know thy things, to know what the fuck's going on in your hometown. Right. That's how you root yourself in the community. So no, I think you're so right, because maybe most Americans are unrooted, and the ones that are rooted are so rooted that they can't see the bigger picture of what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, like social media, the news, mainstream media, what you call, that's all just noise. If you want to see what's happening, talk to your neighbor and ask about the price of groceries. Ask about the price from healthcare. Ask about how much their prime have gone up. Ask about the how much money they are like putting in rent, because nobody's owning a fucking house or a place to live right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's politics.
Yeah, it's kind of like everyone else is actually living paycheck to paycheck, and that's not good. And there should be things like never have ever should that ever be okay. And so when people collectively are living paycheck to paycheck, when those paychecks don't start coming through, what happens? If everyone is living paycheck to paycheck, if near everyone is living paycheck to paycheck, like your working class and your lower class, right? What happens when that paycheck isn't here? Because I look, the budget is being approved right now or not being approved, and that's the next paycheck.
Yeah, your wages are not keeping up with your price increases. Like the math is not mathing. So you need to start like be preoccupied by that. Like soon, as of right now, because that will not change with your congressman, that will not change with your representatives. If you don't force that change, if you don't fight for that change. Because, as I said, there is no autocratic regime that ends itself. It's always the people.
So I have a solution. So, in reference to knowing thy community, why people won't do it if they don't know why. I mean, let's be honest. The average American's kind of antisocial. They're all fucking feathery flocks anyhow, because the fucking media allows for them to be able to feather and flock together in various groups, right? Individualism, as they call it, right? So to fight the individualism of it all is to remind people of a social safety net. And if the government cannot provide the social safety net, then it is the people who have to create it together. And you can't do that virtually. You can only do that. You can ask for help and aid externally, virtually, document, right? Share information virtually, right? But the food is in person. The hands to make
Yeah,
the food is in person. Period. That's where you have to start. The shelter is here, you know? Like
yeah,
it, because you have to assume the hyperinflation. You have to assume that to buy things isn't really an option, right? That's frivolous, genuinely, right? In this circumstance. So it looks like mutual aid is what it's called, but what it really is the social safety net that you needed all along. Community. But to know the church that has a warm blanket for you, right? To know where your soup kitchen is, right? Like those things, but like destigmatized with more resources and raised for everyone, embraced even.
yeah. That's the gist of it, basically. That that's that's our fight right now.
I
We
think
have
that's the world's fight to move away from fucking capitalism.
it's more like to move away from corruption and being taken advantage.
But that's
Um,
the foundation of capitalism. Like, what do you mean? To take it, because someone benefits at the end.
yeah, like thinking of the
That's why
people
it's
instead of only.
distinct. Like that profit, right? Profit is distinct to capitalism in comparison to socialism and communism. That so what is profit if not extortion? It's just who's not extorted. That is what profit is.
Like how the idea is how you can make a state or how you can make a country in which the well-being of the people living in it is the issue at hand and not only where the profit comes from, because profit in itself is not uh, um, profit in itself is not the only issue. It's how that translate to you being okay, not in survival mode, but okay.
Secure, to eat,
Yeah,
to rest, to be at ease, to not be in a state of panic, because you know that you can eat and rest and wake up the next day to try again.
Yeah. That's basically the whole thing. We are like fighting for this because we don't feel free. I mean, it's not only a feeling; it's something you can see. If you don't feel safe going out in the street, if you don't know if you're gonna have like something to eat, if you don't know if you're like having a roof over your head, because the people that's supposed to represent your interests basically pay out on you and lie to you, and then they just their main focus is like stay in power and get their fucking privileges. Uh, well, you're fucked.
I have a statistic.
Well,
Hold on. But keep going. I'm
yeah,
about to pull up a
well,
stat. But keep going.
yeah. Even the people that support the Korean government, they are being lied to. Like they are being lied to. Even if they don't want to see it, they are being lied to. You don't have to like belittle them or mock them. If you see that your neighbor is being robbed and is getting a bad deal, you don't mock him. That's not how it works.
I mean,
So
think about it more literally. Physically robbed. If your neighbor has someone with a gun come to their house to steal their shit, you feel unsafe. Physically, right? It's just one layer removed. It's the same shit though. Because
yeah,
it is with the
so
threat of violence at the end of the day.
so you have to like start thinking of ways on focus on the right issues, building bridges, and fucking march, fucking pressure, or you're fucked. In the long run, you're fucked.
I have the stat. Ready? So,
Yeah.
back in the day, Elon Musk asked the UN how much is it to solve world hunger. They came back with a figure, a genuine figure, a figure that took a lot of research because they took months to genuinely answer his question, right? And they said, bet 64 billion, it'd be solved in 5 years. Never happen again. Not a single hungry mouth ever again, right? For 64 billion total, right? Assuming that, you would get it in certain increments, right? And maybe like not necessarily as much upfront, right? But like a full funding plan, even, right? But totality wise, at the end of the day, 64 billion, right? With a start off of like, I don't know, like less than that. So they gave him that hit figure. He did not give them $64 billion. He didn't even have that liquid anyways, right? But recently, ICE's new budget approval for ICE's brand new money manifested for them just to make another Guantanamo Bay was 64 billion. New money. New money for the budget for ICE. For that. 64. Just like that. Just for them. For a new Guantanamo Bay. Instead of feeding the fucking world, that same money was used to make another Guantanamo Bay. Numbers.
Yeah. That's the issue at hand. So yeah, that's what it's been fed to you. What you are dealing with right now, it's what we have been dealing for years. It's just new to most American people, but it's the same playbook. It's the same playbook.
Mm.
Like you are getting distracted of important things
Right, the
that
smoke and mirrors
pertain.
of it.
Yeah, you are distracted from important things that pertain your your future and the future of your kids or the future of your family, because you are taking for granted things that should not be taken for granted.
I mean, in reference to a generational curse, I'd say the curse started in Reagan era. Because a lot of these economic issues point back to Reaganomics of things that he spat out quick to allow for big old loopy holes for his big money Hollywood constituents. And note, we have a Hollywood constituent now, ironically enough, who's making very potent decisions on economic policy. Really weird
Yeah.
that it's Reaganomics 2.0, you know? It was
So
Reagan who ended the wealth cap here, I
so
think.
yeah, it's important to like start paying attention to your everyday life. Where you are at, where you want to be. That's politics. Where you are heading and the decisions that are being made on your behalf are not in your best interest.
Okay, bet. I found it.
So,
So once upon a time, we had a president named Theodore Roosevelt who came out with this tax called a wealth tax in 1935. It was called the Revenue Act, and it fundamentally put a cap on how much wealth you can receive. And that's why we have this smoke and mirror show of everything going into stock, right? So it's no longer liquid anymore, right? That's the modern to like not deal with that. But a combination of Bush, Reagan, and other bullshit has done a lot to undo that, right? So even that, like that initial one, like initially was like what you can't have like you can't. It's part of the reason why we have a sliding scale to our taxes too, which only ever makes sense. Period, right? Because at the end of the day, it's a person receiving it, right? Not a group of people. But that's also why, you know, theoretically speaking, a lot of people, you know, put a lot of their wealth into charities, right, to help the group of people around them for charitable related, nonprofit related things, right? Fair enough, right? But that Reagan, that Reagan concept, that's so Reagan concept, right? Is literally that's our fucking that's the nostalgia that we're repeating kind of bullshit and the modernity of the uniqueness of our political bullshit. If it needed a fucking metaphor and analogy, somewhere to be pointed to, it was Reaganomics. It's that so Raven.
well,
Get it? Because she has like
um,
pictures of the future. Anyways. Yeah, that. So, in reference. Actually, no, I needed you to define something for me. What's racketeering?
well, what's racketeering?
Yeah. For the
Yeah, well,
Americans watching.
oh, okay. Yeah, basically. Um, we have like groups of criminals uh, that basically extort you of
Oh,
having a business or like basically earn your living.
so the mob stuff. Racketeering is when okay, so the racketeering is when a unaffiliated entity buys your protection, and buying your protection looks like, give me money, I'm extorting you.
Yeah, give me money so I don't kill you, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to pay me like monthly a fee to keep on going. So that's been a prevalent thing here. Um,
Racketeering just sounds like low-level taxes.
well, it's not low
Honestly.
level when it's not really low level if they like pick on your capacity of make ends meet. Like we have like two general economies in here. That's formal economy and
Mm-hmm.
informal economy. Informal economy, it's people getting by how they can by the ends they can. What this means, it's making a small business and try to sell stuff, um, buying produce to cook something and sell it on the street, or selling services that of things you're good at, but you don't pay you well basically you don't pay taxes for it, and you don't have like you cannot offer some security about that product of service.
Mm.
But people needs to eat, needs to do something to live. So instead of trying to make their way through the work market, because that's something that's mostly kind of impossible in some circumstances, they
Yeah, if people won't hire you, for example, like you can't do anything about that. You can't help if they can't afford to hire you, you know?
yeah. So you start your own thing to reach the end of the month. So when you do that, and someone comes with a gun and say you need to pay me a percentage of all your earnings each month, so nothing happens to you, it's kind of brutal.
Yeah, it's already kicking you while you're down. You can't do shit about it.
Yeah,
But I
and
make the
it's
comparison of tax because in my world of American politics, how dare they continue to put extra infringements on people who can't afford it, right? Hence, like homelessness being an economic policy and starvation being an economic policy. That's what I mean by that, where it's that kind of oppression feels in parallel because it
yeah,
is at the end of the day met with the same kind of violence genuinely when it comes like when people are moved from like a homeless camp, right? With hoses and guns. Violence.
yeah. That's what ICE is doing instead of actual gang. It's
Just brown people, yeah. Indiscriminately.
it's it's uh it's a state supported. You have like the state supported gangs.
Yeah. Well, ICE is like a secret police because they don't have any like regulatory body over them specifically at the moment.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and just as they can target specific people up there, they can target you. I know this. Like I know this because I've seen it. Because I have lived that. Like the jump from that state of affairs to the next, it's quicker than you think.
No, you're so right, though. We don't have to look into the past. We don't have to look into history. Modernity has the answers for us right now of what it looks like on a failure of economy, on a failure of politics, on a failure of autocracy, of an unrivaled autocracy. It's all before us within a capitalism, within a democracy, because we made it happen in South America. It was just expedited. It's just a little spicy.
Yeah, like a lot of the tactics and the the movements the government is making are strikingly similar to things happen in all of South America for years, like years. I mean decades. It looks like the exact same thing. Yes, you're like facing it now, but the government is using the same tactics of foreign policy on domestic affairs.
Okay, hear me out. Hear me out. What if this was the end state of any capitalism anyways within a democracy? Capitalism within democracy, right? Not socialism within democracy, capitalism within democracy. What if this was always, what if autocracy was always the end state of of democracy with capitalism, right? Because hear me out. What if it was because this is how it ends always? And what if it took America so long specifically because of a concentration problem? Because they had the world stage. Because we had the world stage. We're huge. Because the people who own these means of production aren't neighbors with the people they're exploiting, as opposed to other countries where they literally are. Like, when you get to a country the size of a state, there's only so many places you can hide, right? But when you're the size of the United States, a fucking like a third of the continent, right? Like that it's a lot easier to hide. And they are also at the means of production so much so now to where they can escape it quickly, easily even. They're very mobile in that sense. So what if it was a concentration problem? What if, not in a rise of cream type of shit, right? But what if the concentration of wealth to America had allowed for the highest high, but also for as long as it has? Because if we did force, democracy with capitalism into these other parts of the world, and they all end like this, and if we're going to this right now, I'm just saying, as a critique to capitalism, not democracy, just
Yeah,
capitalism in democracy. Capitalism isn't the issue. Socialism is the solution to capitalism and democracy, right? Period. Right. But communism is a combination of economic and social policy. It's just separate and been implemented in various ways, and not what I'm saying necessarily. Anyways, go ahead.
I think that the thing is like be reasonable and be measured because I have seen both. Like I
Oh
have
yeah,
lived
corruption can be
through.
anywhere.
Yeah, like a communist totalitarian state is just as bad as a fascist authoritarian state. It's just extra steps and different discourse, but it's the same thing.
Yeah, that's the
So
issue.
it
If like how to maintain the rigid rails of not turning back to that to corruption, right? Is
yeah
how to compartmentalize and how to establish protections, right? And locks and back doors. Like, yeah, how, as crazy as it is, it's all bureaucracy, and bureaucracy needs bureaucracy to fix itself sometimes. And for a better bureaucracy, you need a more complicated bureaucracy. But complicated doesn't have to be bad. Complicated can be good. Compartmentalizing can be good to protect itself. You just also need back doors in case of emergency. But the back doors in the case of emergency have to be non-exploitable, right? Like, which is just more rules, which means it's more complicated, but complicated doesn't have to be bad. If it's in, it doesn't have to be bad. Complicated doesn't
yeah
have to be bad, because in a world of abundance, if $64 billion that could have been used to feed every person in the fucking world went to Guantanamo Bay, then it's really just a reorganization issue at this point.
yeah. You have to like realize and fast that the people in the government, the authorities in government, can be criminals too, and they need to be like taken into process.
Are you
You
trying
need
to tell me my felon? Are you trying to tell me? Okay, the the one way that my father and Trump become more and more alike. At first, it was because they were both felons. Now it's because they're both white supremacists. I don't know how that happened. My dad's brown. But anyways, like, right? But like, are you telling me that like my very American president, who's a felon, is a criminal? That's crazy. What do you mean that him being a pedo isn't okay? What do you mean him being on the Epstein files is bad? I thought everyone knew that and was okay with that. I thought that was just a normal American thing.
that needs like there are things that need to be addressed, and there are people in Congress, there are people in political positions that need to be held accountable. The sooner, the better. And
Yeah, I
not
know where to
doing
start. That Epstein list is a
yeah,
good place to start. Hot take.
yeah. And doing that like later is not easier.
No, it just makes it
It is
harder.
not. It just makes things harder.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, and I'm not only talking about the Epstein list. I'm talking
Oh
about
no,
policy.
that's just one thing. Yeah.
One thing
Mm-hmm.
that the way the U.S. government is enacting regulations and laws is not right.
Oh, what do you mean by that? Relations and loss for the Americans at home.
You cannot expect a government to function with executive orders.
Oh, yeah. What, you can't just
That's
run an entire people based off of vibe alone? You need like rules?
yeah. You
What do
need
you what do you
balance.
what do you mean it can't just be based off of vibe? You mean that these executive orders actually need legitimate policies that are enactable and actionable behind them? What do you mean it can't just be based off of vibe? That's crazy.
Well, that's the situation. You cannot you cannot rule by decree. That's not how things work.
Wait, could you repeat that again?
Yeah, you cannot rule by decree. You cannot like sign a paper and make shit happen because you say so. That's not how shit works. So you need to like start enforcing check and balances, because right now, what you can see on plain daylight, and nobody is telling you the contrary, is that there are no checks on what Congress and the executive branch is doing, because Congress and the executive branch are one and the same. If the executive branch and the majority of the House are composed of the same power, that means you don't have a balance, a real balance.
Are you telling me that when my politicians hold and enforce everything not between their own executive branch but also the other branches, that it's not a separation of power and it's a singular power? That's crazy. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
and you are starting to deal with the consequences of that in just 2 years. And that
No,
will not
people
go
are
out,
just starting to be aware of the consequences. Come on, the consequences have always been present.
but that will not go out, that will not disappear in 3 more years. That will be
A
even
problem you can't ignore.
more, yeah, it will be a much bigger problem each year. It will not end with Trump.
You want to know
It
how I
will,
know? Oh, but it's a cultural issue too. And you want to know how? Okay, so here's my projection. I'm gonna put on my tinfoil hat. Okay, my tinfoil hat, right? So, hear me out. I think the cultural issue here is the niceness culture, right? Me being a person who's too autistic to exist was not well conditioned into any particular culture for that matter, right? So it's a very large conglomerate of things, you know. And luckily, because of my experiences, I've been around the fucking world, which most people don't have the opportunity to, right? To taste other culture and know that shit can be different, right? Anywho, so the reason why I think it's an American culture issue is because niceness culture. If a American cannot comfortably be like, my bank account is so negative I cannot eat to their friend, they're not gonna eat, right? If niceness culture looks like you're too anxious to be able to reach out for help, to show face, you rather show face that things are together when everyone is failing, when everyone's falling apart, and so it's the not being able to the needing to show face is part of niceness culture, right? And this is reflected in how people don't like communicating with negative emotions, right? Corpo culture is like niceness culture elite, right? And it does, because corpo culture is more or less our upper class culture, not quite our 1% culture, right? But our upper class culture, right? So corpo culture has the trickle down effect, yeah, and because the cultural expectations, right? Because that is how we're expected to act in when navigating bureaucratic things, right? But one of them, for example, is not being able to communicate, period, with a negative emotion. You're not allowed to communicate with a negative emotion, otherwise it's not listened to, right? It has to be framed, like sadness is the exception because of framework, but even then barely allowed, right? It's not objective, right? This sense of objectivity, right? So if no one can ask for help, right, and everyone's just trying to show face until they crumble and fall, then that means everyone's suffering in silence.
Yeah, but I think the
The only
main
people who
argument
aren't
is
silent are the trans people.
I think the main argument I'm trying to make is that
Mm-hmm.
once you have like this singular power taking uh, all the positions or the majority of positions in the different government branches, this means the Supreme Court, this means Congress, this means the executive branch, this means the judiciary branch. When you start to feel like all is just the same power, that doesn't go away in the next election.
No, that has to be
That
fixed over time, which means it has to start yesterday.
yeah, that will stay. It will be another phase. It will be another discourse. Can be from the right, can be from the left. It doesn't matter because that stays. That way of doing things doesn't go away.
It has to be reformed.
Yeah. And for that to happen, you have to make your politics accountable for
Hear
what they
me
are
out
doing.
though. You're right. You're right. That is what it looks like actionably. That's what it looks like on the top level. That's what it looks like for the people who are capable of organizing to organize. But I dare say for the average person, it looks like identifying that, being able to talk about your needs. Like if everyone collectively was like, damn, this shit's fucked because of this, because my needs are this, because it's not being met because of this, right? If that veil was lifted, then people would unite, is what I'm saying. Like, you're right.
Yeah.
That's how you talk to your neighbor, that's how you talk to your neighbor, right? That my
Yes.
needs, you have needs too. Some people have excess resources. Like, for example, the cup of milk metaphor, right? Like, shit, I got extra eggs, but my neighbor's got milk. Let's do a trade, right? That's right. That's what it looks like on a microcosm, but felt on a macrocosm is that on a political level.
Yeah. That's exactly like that. You need to start with your neighbor. Talk to people you have close, and talk about things that pertain your everyday life. Don't get in the noise of social media and regular media. Like,
Those are just tools anyways, not societies,
yeah,
not cultures. Get your fucking noses out of there.
yeah, get to know what the fuck is going on where you live in your neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not that hard. You just have to go out and look, like really look close. That's
Yeah.
it. It's all that you need to do. It's look close on where you live. Realize it doesn't look good, and start questioning why. That's all you need to do. That will bring you closer to your neighbor and even to people you disagree with, because you are living in the same physical space with the same issues and the same problems. It's not what a comment on a social media is. That's not real. That doesn't matter. That will go away in a couple of days.
Deletable. It's only ever existent for as long as it's ever existent, and that's if it ever even mattered, anyways. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
but the,
and
the state
things.
of your street, that stays. The how are the houses around the one you live? How are the people living around where you live? How are they fucking doing? Are they okay? That stays. That stays. That's what you need to look for. It's it's not rocket science. You just need to look close, and focus on the right issues and the right questions. You don't have to agree with your neighbor. You have to make sure he's okay.
That he doesn't
So you
die,
can be,
that he can eat.
yes. So you can be okay too. You don't need to agree with the guy. You don't need to. It doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. In American culture, there's a lot of misinformation, so the battling of ideas is strictly through the veil of misinformation, anyhow. So all of it's irrelevant because people can't even operate within the realm of reality. Like the reality of the matter, the reality of the situation, the reality of politics, like outside of the, Fox CNN dichotomy.
It's because that's because the scope of what a lot of people perceive about reality, it's out of focus. Like, your reality is the street you're living.
Oh,
What your neighbor is, it's your neighbor okay? Is your district doing fine? That's your reality, not what the fuck is someone telling
but I
in
got you.
Instagram or.
Fabian, I got you. So, for example, for myself, my life, my reality, yeah, a neighbor like across the street from me, they had a like one of the like fucking walking machines in their driveway, right? Ish, like in front of their house, right? That area, and it was gonna rain, and it had a battery in it. I know because I'm a person who can recognize technology with batteries in it, right? Because it didn't have a plug or whatever, right? And so I'm like, that's an explosion hazard, period, right? And so my first thought is, I'm going to go inform the neighbors around there. Hey, do you have a tarp or something, and or the number to this person's house? Because I knocked on the door, they weren't home, right? And like, hey, do you have her number to tell her to come back? Someone, right? Like, does she have a remote garage thing real quick, right? So we could just push it in. Like, what's up, right? Anything to contact her. No one No, she's lived here for 2 years. No one on my street had her number. I have other people's numbers, right? But no one else, no one around her did, right? And, you know, if I didn't put that with a note, has since been returned, mind you, right? But if I didn't put that somewhere safe, you know, not it could have not just affected her house, it could have affected mine, depending on, you know, the size of what the fuck, you know, shrapnel even, right?
Yeah,
Danger. The
that's just
basic
an
reality
example.
of not like, yeah, no one had her number. Out of the 15 people I tried to talk to, like 15 people who lived near me that I spoke to, none of them could have told her, hey, your house was on fire. None of them could have told her, hey, your dog just died. No one could have told her, hey, someone was about to break into your house. No one could have told her, hey, you're actively in danger.
Yeah, your reality, it's closer to you. It's not like a Discord server. It's your reality is not like your online group of friends with you playing games. That's fine. Don't get me wrong.
No,
That's
that's chill
fun.
though. That's not meat
Y-
space.
Yeah, but your basic needs are covered around the people that lives around you, your family and your neighbors. You don't have to agree with them. You just have to make sure they are okay. That's all. That will make a strong community that can fight back when you start to notice that doing okay comes with this needs to happen in council. This needs to happen in the townhouse. And that will lead to this need to get to Congress. This needs to get to right.
So I bet if I may make a magical comparison, in my studies, I don't know, I wanted to learn tarot, but tarot is really complicated and I barely even know how to read it now. Still don't know, relatively. But in my studies, right, it came from the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. It came from the thought forms Hermes and Thoth, right? Hermes from Greek mythos and Thoth from Egyptian mythos, combined to a different entity, right? But the foundation of their knowledge, like something about emerald tablets. I have no idea what's on those emerald tablets. I know one thing that was on those emerald tablets that still holds true even to here. As beloved, so below. Right? The metaphor is that from within, so without. From self love, you can love others. From internal pain, you hurt others, right? From community internally and organizing has then the radical effect of everywhere the fuck else. Yeah. As beloved, so below. And it's the reason why it's relevant to tarot is because like magic, the magic of it all, the mysticism, right? But in reference to this, yeah, the below, your household, your neighborhood, your town, your city, then your community, then your county, then your state. Then your state will represent you. But it starts at your house in your neighborhood, with your friends and your family, your town, your local politics. You're right. It's the people aren't rooted into their communities and use the smoke and mirrors, the Fox CNN dichotomy, to be part of this greater thought form. And people as a whole need to be rerouted to where they're physically at right now.
Yeah. Basically, that's it.
And like, for example, the loss of third spaces is an example of how community lost its roots. The closest thing is sports, but even that's not a third space though. You have to pay to exist there.
Yeah. I insist, like, you don't have to agree. You just have to make sure they are okay. That's all. You don't need to agree. You don't need to have the same thought pattern or the same idea about things. But at least you have to have some common ground about outcomes. And by outcomes, I mean,
People get better. People get fed. People get
yeah,
housed.
having like access to get medical care, having a decent wage and a decent contract, having a, a house lease that doesn't fucking abuse of you, um, um, not being like forced into get into default by a bank because they change your interest rates, and all of a sudden your has increased and you don't know why. Don't being forced into pay taxes
Being
that you shouldn't.
robbed blind.
Yes, being robbed blind.
It's pennies with taxes, right? It's pennies with loan amounts, right? But it adds up. And we've been being bled in this way for a minute.
Yeah, and the current average wage in the states doesn't keep up with the cost of living. It just doesn't. So at some point, that will break. If what you earn isn't enough to pay for a living, and you keep on getting on debt, not for luxuries, not for frivolous things. If you're getting in constant debt for education, for health, for security, for housing, if you live in debt indefinitely, at some point someone will try to collect. That needs to stop. And that's policy.
And if they can't collect, it's either death or indentured servitude. Jail, but indentured servitude. Or
Yeah,
death.
it's not pretty. That's mostly what I would say. When collectively you can collect and the debt keeps going up and prices keeps going up, what you get is scarcity. And that's when you face that scarcity in like um a broad sense. I don't mean like scarcity of like there's someone that doesn't have and someone that does have. I mean like scarcity in the sense that it doesn't care if you have money because there is nothing to buy.
The hyperinflation economy, when there's no longer.
Yeah, when things just don't make sense anymore. Um, that's getting out of that. It's really hard. It's really, really hard. So instead of
The local professors aren't
like
even aware of how close our economy is to failing.
you need to start realizing that you are marching in that direction and put a stop to it. Sooner the better. Well, Lime, it's been a pleasure, but I need to get going.
Okay.